It's Mom and Dad's 38th anniversary.
Oh, okay. So they went for longer.
They went for longer.
You did a drive-by.
Yeah, drive-by. Just to say I love you. Here's our gift. Enjoy dinner. See you later.
Nice.
So we have no air conditioning.
Oh, yeah, that one. Oh, it is on.
If you
It's just a hot air that's in this room.
hadn't opened that door, it would be cool.
Well, let's shut the door.
It's so quiet you can't hear it. Right?
Check my heart rate throughout this meeting.
Got a Fitbit?
Ooh, you got it. We can start.
Call to order, public safety. First item on the agenda is the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistant Grant. Chief.
Which side, my best side, but I'll stand there if I have one. This is the JAG grant, referred to as JAG. It's the Edward Byrne grant. It's an annual grant we receive that the city and county receives as partners. We basically have to play nice, as they say, and we sit down and have a series of meetings and what to spend the money on. It's allocated, this year is $47,765. Basically divide that in half. The city of Schenectady would receive half of that, $23,000. I think that's 882. We as a police department are proposing to council that it allows us to spend the money on traffic safety equipment. What I mean by that is signage boards, a traffic speed, they're not speed wagons, but they actually go on the poles. Some just stuff that's orientated for traffic safety. If we have a major accident, we put up a major detour. If we have side streets that people feel are speeding, we can post more signs. We do have a sign or two right now. I'm not sure how many we have. Actually, I think 2. And then this will enable us to buy another one. So the funding will be used with traffic safety in mind.
So you know the price for these?
Yeah, I do have prices. I can relate to the council, but we did work up some preliminary prices just to stay within this ballpark. I don't have right down to the penny yet. First, we just want to this grant is very kind of flexible in the sense of how you can spend the money. I don't think it can be for personnel, but it has, for equipment, it's kind of broad in that sense. We met as both with the county, with the DA's office, the DA's office, had a series of meetings, and basically we kind of split the number in half every year and take our portion, they do something that they feel is necessary, as well as us. So again, then we met as an organization, this department, and the chief and some other command staff members, and we really felt there was a need there right now for signage boards, whether it be the Christmas parade or downtown events or something that helps us, direct traffic in the right way, as well as the speed controls, or at least to get estimates on certain streets that people feel are speeding. Sometimes it's reality, sometimes it's not. So the signage boards kind of help us. The speed things, speed estimated, official term, but they help us kind of relay that information back to the neighborhoods. There's no match. That's usually big with the council.
So the first thing we look for.
There's no match as far as the city's concerned. Again, this is one we receive based on our crime stats and so forth.
Have a motion?
Better to decide what they need than the actual police department, right?
We appreciate that. Again, this is public safety, so we kind of try to make it really towards even more traffic safety this year.
Sure, it's all of it.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask that we move government ops up here while the chief is here. Oh, excuse me. That's right.
Any other business before public safety?
I motion we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. So let's go with
So I'm going to
government.
call government operations to order. I'm going to put you on the hot spot here.
Okay. Is that outside or this side?
Certainly a couple of council members were vocal about the increased usage of fireworks in the city, but I think we all share a common concern. I know we've had numerous discussions outside of the council chambers, just one-on-one, about the increased activity. Now, all of us recognize that what's actually legal in the city is not a cause for concern to us as much as the illegal fireworks that are being used. And I think we're looking to really talk about what our options might be, and part of those options would be any ideas or preemptive measures that the police department may have discussed after seeing the increase this past, not only 4th of July, but in some neighborhoods 10 days, like in my neighborhood, 10 days to 2 weeks before the holiday. So just in gathering information, have there been,
I don't have the numbers, raw numbers for you tonight as far as increased call volume or anything like that. Historically, 4th of July is actually a very busy night for us, where we run around different fireworks. The law has changed, that I think most of the council is aware of. And when it changed, when we had to, when we walking down, actually, Carl Fatico, I sent it to him just because we posted obviously internally, make sure legally we're on the right page. And he said basically what it comes down to, and the way I interpret it also, if the county selects to ratify it and accept that law as a change, then it affects the whole county, not just, so our city ordinances wouldn't trump the law that's concerned. Our main concern, obviously, again, back to public safety, is we're in an urban environment. I'm not sure if this law really took into effect urban environments that you have houses so close to each other. Basically, there's no aerial type of fireworks. Everything has to be ground controlled. In other words, the sparklers that go up in the air, hang from the trees and spin around, but it can still cause, if the right debris there, some safety concerns. I'm sure the fire department probably echo that more than I can do. I'm not sure legally what we can do. I mean, from an enforcement standpoint, we can go after bigger fireworks. That's kind of the problem. We do it every year. From a legal standpoint, as far as you walk in, I don't want to be, but Walmart, so the stores, you see displays that they have, and I know a number of individuals, that I know that have bought this stuff, and they do it in their own backyards, but there's still noise. There's still, again, I don't know if it was the intent or the knowledge of when you live in an urban environment that there's so many people in such a small area that it has a little bit different effect than being in the country or off to where you have an acre or two of land. I'm not sure exactly what the council's looking for, other than we can, we do the enforcement end of it. You guys have to do the legal end of it.
No, we weren't looking for anything specific. It's just while you were here, why not have your input on it? I think we're just starting discussions right now.
I'm not sure if the fire department had any calls because of it. I'm not sure if they had any, we can research this a little bit further to see if there was any kind of concerns that were brought up. I'm not aware of, from the police department, and I'm going to have to look into this with other commanders of the department, of a larger amount than usual of complaints for the fireworks. Again, these are statistics we can provide to the council. Again, I can look into the ripple down effect of mainly the fire department if there's any instance that they're aware of.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Questions, comments?
I just know that I've gotten numerous emails and a couple of phone calls that describe what sounded like pretty dangerous situations. So I was not in town that weekend, but as I said, I've heard from a bunch of people. I think everybody has. Yeah, 4th of July is historically, we confiscate a lot of fireworks, and we do make arrests on it. We do more confiscate than arrest, because sometimes there's running from call to call, and trying to get the fireworks out of people's hands. We also, naturally, I'm a sports fan, so we've had a couple of incidents with football players, is holding fireworks. There's other incidental type of things that happen with fireworks that people have to be, careful of. So it's again, we can do a little fact finding, see what we're up against. I think from a nuisance standpoint, being a neighbor and again, it's close proximity, we should think about it.
Do we need to formally request that information from you, or is this conversation enough to just, if we could get some statistics
I work for the
on
mayor,
calls?
so you tell me.
What are you looking for?
Just a comparison of calls this year versus last year. I think it would be worthwhile data to look at.
We can do that, I'll say tomorrow, but probably by Wednesday, get it out to you. So.
I think Wednesday would be just fine. Thursday's okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Cocher,
Yeah,
yes.
thank you. And just to be clear, the items that you're talking about at Walmart, Even though it did say fireworks on it, you have to read closely, they were actually sparklers. And that's what the county okayed. They okayed the use of sparklers in Schenectady County, not fireworks, not the things that are shooting 60, 70, 80 feet in the air, because I had a ton of those in Woodlawn as well. So that was certainly not what Schenectady County approved. But again, the packaging just was really mislabeled, very truly, because I went in every store, and actually it made me stop a couple times because you saw the big word firework, and those boxes were pretty tall. I'm thinking, holy mackerel, what the heck are we selling? But when you read it closely, what each of those kits contained, it was just really sparklers, things that spun around on the ground, nothing that was shooting off into the air. The other question, I mean, we talked about the county law. Is there any way we can do our own curfew? That was one of the complaints. They're shooting off at 1, 2 in the morning. Is there? I know it'd be very difficult to enforce like anything else, but could we do an 11 o'clock curfew or midnight curfew on that 4th of July holiday? And realistically, what do you think our police department can do to enforce that, though, as well?
We can enforce the law in the books. I don't know legally if we have authority to put a curfew on it because
We can't.
It's a weird law. I read it, and I haven't read it recently, like, just to prepare for this meeting, but it allows from, I think, June 1st to like July 5th or something like that to purchase these sparklers.
Right, to purchase them, yes.
There's also a 2-week window at New Year's to purchase these sparklers. I can't remember the exact dates, but it goes to like January 2nd or whatever, or 1st. So you're going to see this kind of reissue its head.
But again, those are sparklers, though. Those are things
No,
that are spinning
sparklers.
around.
But what happens is it generates...
People buy from other
Yeah,
states. I mean, that's where they're coming from. They're coming from
And the law-
Pennsylvania, South Carolina. They're
The
coming
state
from-
law is only for sparkler system, so
Right.
the county approved it, as well as most counties across New York State approved this.
Correct, they did.
I'm not sure if there's ripple down effect. Again, every, city body or, government bodies within those counties are having the same type of issues or complaints. It's fresh, so I'm not sure what the outcome is.
Well, my question is the noise ordinance, though, Chief, with them shooting the big, again, and I'll be quite honest with you, my neighbor down the road from me was shooting off, but they both came over to my house and said, Ed, we're going to be shooting them off, just to let you guys know. And we sat in our backyard, and it was unbelievable. It was like jumping jacks. But I don't know where they got these things from. But but those were not what the county approved. There's no question. I'm sure your folks are hearing too in Bellevue. It's not what the county
We're all well aware that
Right.
it's just the sparklers, but I liken it to a gateway drug. It's like
Yeah.
it kind of blurs the lines for some people, whether
They get hooked on May,
Yeah.
whether they are confused by the blurred lines or if they purposely want to see blurred lines. That I think is a lot of the feedback that I've gotten. And in my conversations, to your point, I've spoken with people in the suburbs, and they said, I didn't notice anything really different this year. So I think the urban environment does have an impact on it, and I know that where the concern lies is not with the sparklers, it's with the illegal fireworks. But regardless, are we exacerbating that? I don't know.
And again, we didn't give, I'm not sure also if people aren't reporting it because they think it's legal now. Now, there could be
Right.
that on this, so I don't know if the stats
Yeah.
will tell us exactly what we want. It just comes
Yeah.
from, the sparklers they have, at least the ones I'm aware of, anyway, they don't make that much noise. They go
Right.
around. So
Right.
from a noise ordinance standpoint, I don't think that would apply. From a fireworks standpoint, obviously the law's changed, so it's acceptable.
Yeah.
Not the big ones we're talking about that go up in the air. And nothing that goes in the air that
Is legal.
that is legal that I'm aware of. So,
Okay, so
without
that's
special
good.
permit.
We just have to call in.
Other questions or comments? Mr. Riggi?
I think we all covered this quite a bit. And again, it's the people that choose to break the law. They're illegal. The stuff that was going off was illegal, whether they had permission or didn't have permission from their neighbors, that doesn't matter. They're illegal. They can cause fires, they can cause injuries. But the noise part of it is what kind of got me. I know in Bellevue, it went on to 3 o'clock in the morning. That I know, because I got received the call after midnight, and it went on to past 3 in the morning. We did identify the house it was, and an officer did go to speak to those people the next day and let them know. But I think what happened, the officer I spoke to said, the ambiguity of it was people said, well, it's legal. And he said, when they show up, naturally, they're not going to show the M80s and the skyrockets and things like that. We have the sparklers, they're illegal. So what do? It opened up a can of worms, unfortunately. I think it was well-intended. Kids, when I grew up, we had sparklers, and then they became illegal later, and that wasn't a problem. But the explosive stuff was always illegal, and it's still illegal. But people that choose to just tramp on people's quality of life, they're going to continue to do that. So enforcement-wise, I don't know what we can do to ramp that up, but apparently, I mean, I could say, at least in my experience, this was the worst ever this year. Now, whether the county okaying that had a lot to do with it or didn't have anything to do with it, I don't know. But I think it did open the door for people to say, hey, it's legal now. And like you brought up, Mr. Kosher, they're fireworks. You see a sign that says fireworks, so fireworks are legal now. That's what a lot of people may have taken it as that's what it is. So it has brought some problems to us all. As we
You did see a lot of roadside vendors as well selling these things. I saw them as I drove around here in the city, actually.
And they got permits too, from what I was told. They
No,
had
they have
permits from the city.
Totally legal. It's just a matter of being a danger. So.
Yeah.
Just quickly
Yes,
on
Mr.
that,
Reed?
on the vendors, hearsay, but I did hear at least one of the vendors was also selling the illegal stuff. Whether that's true or not, whether we should do a sting maybe next year, I don't know, but I did hear that happen, where you could buy the other
And those are
stuff.
things we can follow up. I mean, again, from an enforcement standpoint, we can take whatever action that, to enforce it. It's just a matter of, I think people are going into the, in my opinion, into the store, seeing them, and maybe it just propelled them thinking, okay, I can blow them up. Maybe everything's acceptable. Even I can't buy them. I don't know. So.
You did do stings, didn't you? Didn't they do a few stings with the tents, I thought? Or was it
No.
code enforcement? What was it? Was it the city?
It was in Crane Street, right?
Crane Street.
Yeah,
Somebody
it was
did.
I
a
saw.
Didn't you guys do them?
bodegas,
Well, it was done.
Well, it's fireworks,
Store
too.
for-
yeah, but
Fire
just
unit.
before those.
Some of the fireworks activities before the 4th.
Other questions, comments for now?
So at this point, are we trying to figure out how to dial it back so that we can put some kind of restriction on what can and cannot happen based on
I
what
think
the has?
we're opening conversation right now.
From my
Well, I
understanding,
can pull the, I'm sorry.
very much. But
Pull those records, just see what the call volume was.
Yep.
Use that somewhat as a baseline for the analysis.
Yep, Mr. Farr?
So basically, from my understanding, whatever, regardless of the nuisance and the noise ordinance that we're probably thinking of in our minds, it's legal, period. So there's really nothing to that we can do as far as setting up a curfew or a timeline or a noise ordinance because it's legal, period. Right? From my understanding, from what you
Well,
said.
the noise ordinance will still be effective for illegal fireworks, because none of the fireworks I'm aware of that are legal make the big kabooms at the end. Yeah, and fireworks are still, to some extent, not the sparkler ones, are illegal, so we can rest on those charges. Again, it plays on the weather, it plays on, there's a lot of circumstances that dictate 4th of July, the activity that we're seeing. Historically, 4th of July is very, very busy for us, and we confiscate a lot of fireworks. Probably more so than making arrests, it's only because of the call volume, because we're tying officers on that. I'm not saying that's the right way to go. It's just sometimes it's just kind of putting a Band-Aid on it, but we, seize the property and move on to the next call, so.
Just one,
Yes,
Mr.
Mr.
Bishop. Is it possible that we can reach out to the county to look at amending this or even rescinding it?
Oh, I think
support
that's
from the council?
a conversation that we can have.
Yes.
Yeah, it has
I
to
mean,
be-
we can provide the stats, the data from, when it's provided to us and back up our evidence against them. So this is causing a lot of problems in our city.
Yes, I think, again, this is to open the discussion
Yes.
and more discussion to follow.
We can pull
Get
stats.
some data first, maybe ask the fire department to come in and a couple of weeks and talk to us.
We can pull the stats and stuff, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
We can pull the stats and stuff, but if you guys, council as a body, you're receiving a lot more calls than you did last year or before, obviously people are
Tremendous
concerned
amount.
about it,
Yes,
so.
we can say that without any reservation.
Tremendous
Yes,
amount.
tremendous calls.
And I'm not sure, I understand that the data may not show that just because people think it's okay. So therefore, they're not going to call. So I think that we're going to have to rely a lot on what we've heard as a council. And just today I was in the post office and a woman asked me, as I was just trying to do my mail, whether we were going to be doing something about the fireworks. And so there was a lot of community concern about that. And I don't know if there was a public hearing before this came before the county. So I agree with Mr. Byrne that we should reach out to the county and
Yes.
have some discussion and see what we can do about it.
There was a public hearing and no one's spoke out, just for clarification.
I'm also not sure if the county can make it restrictive in another area. They've never been able to restrict it to not to in the city or something like that. I'm not sure how the law is written in such a way that, that we can
So I just drive to Rotterdam and buy the fireworks.
And it's unlighted.
What's the difference?
I've been setting them off.
That's what I'm saying.
All
Doesn't make
right,
sense.
I mean, it's open, I mean, we can reach
Yeah.
out to them and ask what can be done.
Okay,
Very
any
good.
other
Very
questions
good.
or comments? So we'll put this on the agenda for 2 more weeks? Is that okay? All right, very good. Any other business to come before government operations?
We adjourn.
Okay,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, call to order Health and Recreation. We're going to have a presentation about the Woodlawn Preserve from Janet Penn.
Okay, so the Woodlawn Preserve, I think you're all familiar with it. It's approximately 135 acres in the area of Woodlawn in Schenectady. About 11 years ago, the Woodlawn Preserve was going to be developed, or at least it's being looked at for development, and those opportunities seem to be popping up from time to time. And what happened was a group of citizens got together, lobbied against it, and the administration at the time decided there would be no development there, and it would be a preserve. Okay, so since then, paper streets have been consolidated. In 1969, the Schenectady City Council, citing a great shortage of vacant land, set aside a 145-acre section of undeveloped pine barrens as the Woodlawn Preserve. Since then, it's been used as open space, recreational, and a natural area. And for all intents and purposes, it is a park, and it should be formally declared as such. Park designation would formally protect the Woodlawn Preserve from any future attempts at development. It would also allow the Woodlawn Preserve to be considered for any future monies that are allocated to parks, because when an opportunity comes up for parks, the Woodlawn Preserve is not on the list. Formal recognition as a park may also make it more visible to corporate entities who are considering park projects. In the Schenectady 2020 plan, the goal for the Woodlawn neighborhood was to formally protect the Woodlawn wildlife habitat and preserve and designate it as parkland. Some of the tasks that fell underneath that goal: provide local protection to the Woodlawn Preserve, a locally rare ecosystem now recognized on the state open resource plan. So we've had those signs that say nature preserve. They were originally made up probably 10 or 11 years ago by Dr. Van Loo. There were some left over. So they were posted then, and they were reposted again more recently, probably 2 or 3 years ago. And of course the city approved the language and what's on it. Solicit funding to plan the nature preserve and pass a park with trails and interpretive signage and a trailhead at the Woodlawn School. That was another task. So the Friends of the Woodlawn Preserve did build 2 kiosks, trailheads, one at the school and one at the Gifford Road entrance. We've marked trails. There's at least 3 named trails now. It doesn't fall exactly within what the management plan called for in terms of trails, but it's a start. So there's 3 main trails. We have brochures printed up with the trails on them, and interpretive signage, I guess we'll have to come at a later time. But the Woodlawn School is actively involved. They take the kids out in the preserve all the time, and we have a native plant garden that we planted back there to attract butterflies. So some of the other tasks relating to the preserve in the Woodlawn in the 2020 plan address ongoing dumping in the Woodlawn Preserve and clean out debris. So this picture at the top is from about 2004. At that time, there was so much debris in there. There were appliances, there were cars. Those steel ramps were buried in the dunes. There had to be 4 or 5 of them at least to be dug out, took away. The ATV and motorbikes were using them to get air. When we go in to clean up now, we don't find anything like that. There's no major appliances, there's no more cars, there's occasionally a little bike part or something, but mostly it's garbage left behind by hikers or fishermen, and it's a fairly easy thing. Another task was to create greenway linkages to other Pinehurst locations in the region and to other green and park resources within the city. So many people, of course, didn't even know the Woodlawn Preserve existed. We had signs made up, and in the effort to be contiguous with the Albany pine bush. We call it the Schenectady pine bush on the signs. So we have them posted in various locations, State Street leading down Gifford Road, and then along Kings Road to point to the preserve. And we now have a cooperative agreement with the Pine Bush Commission. They'll help us with certain projects. They've actually gotten an extra $100,000 in their budget to help us out. They're a little limited as to how they can use it at this point. We still need to have further discussions, but they did just buy us a whole mess of really nice trail maintenance equipment. And then another task was to expand the preserve to include the city-owned parcels and paper streets along its borders. And I know that effort has at least been started. So it doesn't look like paper streets were always like an invitation to developers that we could build here. So to take those away, it kind of takes down that red flag for developers. So a few years ago, the discussion kind of stopped at, do we call it a park or do we call it Forever Wild? And I think Mr. Rittner at the time had mentioned that by calling it Forever Wild, we may be able to be eligible for more grants or greater funding. But the answer isn't that simple in New York State. It's not an either-or choice. The Forever Wild designation actually has no strict definition in terms of state or federal law. So if we look at Article 14 of the New York State Constitution, it requires New York's Forest Preserve, which is all land owned by the state within Adirondack and Catskill parks and managed by the DEC, to be kept forever wild and just enjoy the highest protection of wild lands in any state. It would require a constitutional amendment to transfer ownership, but we don't fall within the Adirondack or the Catskill parks. And of course, they have varying definitions. Within the Adirondack Park, which is forever wild, they have snowmobile trails, and they have areas where they do some development and some timber claiming. So that's kind of vague, and that would not apply to us. That's the state definition. The term was first introduced in 1894 to protect the Adirondacks, but it's been used since in many contracts that deal with conservation land easements. Schenectady could easily adopt those standards in a resolution by including a section with definitions, one including the definition for Forever Wild, and it would be our definition. In addition to a park designation, Forever Wild would provide another layer of protection and would indicate to future politicians the intent is to keep it that way. So there's other communities within the state that do that sort of thing. Some other suggestions would be the city could classify the preserve as a critical environmental area. That would require any project in the preserve to go through a more stringent secret process. We would want to define clearly in the resolution that the designation cannot be changed or overturned without a vote. And as I said, other communities in New York State have used that Forever Wild designation in this way. For example, New York City has a Forever Wild program. It's an initiative of the New York City Department of Parks and Recreation to protect and preserve the most ecologically valuable lands within all 5 boroughs. There's 51 Forever Wild nature preserves in total. Central Park, for example, has 2 Forever Wild areas within Manhattan. And then there's Marine Park in Brooklyn and Van Cortlandt Park in the Bronx and, more. I can't name all 51 ones. So in New York City, their Forever Wild designation, there's 29,000 acres of New York City parkland, and there's 10,000 acres of forest, woodland, salt, freshwater marshes protected by the state law only as parkland, leaving a lot of wiggle room for ball fields and playgrounds. In 2001, they were designated Forever Wild to prevent that from happening. So Adrian Benefi, a former Parks Commissioner, said it has no legal force, it's a policy. And I suppose a future administration could undo it. But in addition to a policy, you have a constituency. And they work actively to promote a constituency, to promote people to go into the parks and enjoy the parks and make it for the people. The Department of State provides funding for the Forever Wild program under Title 11 of the Environmental Protection Fund. And I looked at it briefly. Nowhere in there does it say, it has to be forever wild. It's just projects are funded that way. So what characteristics constitute forever wild? Why do we want to think that the Woodlawn Preserve could be forever wild? For one thing, they contain functioning ecosystems composed primarily of native plants and animals. They're big, because most plants and animals require a large undisturbed area to survive and reproduce. 2 or more preserves may be nearby or connected to each other, allowing wildlife to move easily between sites. And we're very lucky to have the Albany pine bush almost contiguous with us. They're home to rare plants and animals. They have healthy soils. In short, it's a place that's legally protected so that it remains free of industrial infrastructure, but open to passive and low-impact recreation, hiking, fishing, snowshoeing, that sort of thing. So my recommendations, our recommendations actually, there's other people from the Friends of the Woodlawn Preserve here, are to formally designate the Woodlawn Preserve as a park. Further define the park designation as forever wild to prevent any development of ball fields, etc., and develop a park policy that defines forever wild. Our latest goal is to complete an accessibility trail to the viewing deck to allow everyone to enjoy the best of what the Woodlawn Preserve has to offer. As it stands now, if you walk on that asphalt drive to the end, all you see are weeds and railroad tracks. You can't really see the pond. But there's a little peninsula that was built last year by our volunteers and also with some money that we were able to get from the county. And we want to be able to have just a handicapped accessible trail leading to it. And I said handicapped accessible. I guess there's a movement now to change, not use handicap so much anymore, the term, but just accessibility. And they're actually they're looking at changing the logo from a person in a wheelchair who looks like he's just stationary to something that invokes a little more action. So approximately 20% of our community has a disability, and that group is the largest minority that anyone can join at any time of their life. So we want to make this preserve accessible. So join us on July 25th. We're going to have a fishing day from 9 to 2. There'll be fishing rods, tackle, and bait available to use. There'll be a barbecue at noon. Ed will be manning the grill. $2 bounty on carp, and if anybody has any experience with fishing, come down and help us out because there'll be some kids there that might need some help. Thank you. Please visit us. We meet every month at the Hibernians on the 4th Wednesday. Here's my contact information. Does anybody have any questions or comments? 210-5439. What is it? 5439.
Any questions from council?
So I guess,
Mr. Bosher?
yeah, thank you. So I guess if we may, Janet, we'll work within our committee here and meet perhaps with council to see what it would take to designate this area as Forever Wild, and working closely with your association. I know there's a meeting this Wednesday at the Hibernian Hall, she mentioned. It's at 6 p.m. But we'll be moving that to the front of the Hibernian Hall probably because there is a service for a good friend of ours, Reverend Manny Adams, who had passed away, so they'll be using the back room. But
Well,
work
I
closely
think
with
that
them,
this-
would that make sense? To
well,
see how
this-
we can move with this?
I think that we would have to talk to council, to corporation
Yes.
council, to make sure, to find out what it actually takes to make this happen, and take it from there. Mr. Ricky?
Yeah, well, I mean, thank you for your hard work in putting all this together. Designated parkland is certainly a good idea, and to really define what Forever Wild is a better idea, because you don't want a ball field in the middle of this
Right.
parkland.
Right.
So it's a twofer, you know, you have to do both, but I think, I don't see any problem with that if we can work it out with our legal team. I don't see why we'd have a problem with this, because it's great.
I do have one other question. So changing it to a park, you talked about the pine bush helping you with some financial support. Would that affect that in any way at all?
No. Right now, we have a cooperative agreement. Phil Steck is actually, his goal is to change the legislation. Pine Bush Commission is limited to Albany County. He would like to see it expanded to include Schenectady County, but that legislation still has to be written and then approved. And that, after speaking to the people of Pine Bush, that wouldn't really affect them at all. It wouldn't affect our agreement, or if, they expanded the commission to include Woodlawn Preserve Park. That's fine with them.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor?
Janet's been part of those discussions, and the follow-up on that with some of respect, I think, is equally important in terms of whatever the council does with Woodlawn Preserve, because the potential for, again, funding and just the collective working together, what is in Albany, there's a number of political subdivisions there, even though the area is geologically all the same. And so how do you deal with it in a comprehensive manner that preserves it and maintains the very sensitive ecosystems that exist within Pine Bush, whether it's in Albany, whether it's in Schenectady, part of it's in Colony, and a little bit over in the town of Rotterdam. I think some actually goes in the town of Gilman too.
I think what would be affected if they did expand that would be Niskayuna and Rotterdam. It's counties and Albany, so.
Yes, right.
Any other questions?
And again, they are a 501c3. You've had that designation for a few years now, and again, I think that's very important because it will open the opportunity for future grants and funding that is out there, and now from the city, but again from state and federal. Similar to what we did with Steinmetz Park, doing the master plan, and now working with Orchard Street Park, doing the plan there. I think that's really what the goal is, I think, with the city and with our committee, I think, is to make sure these parks have these master plans in place so that we can go out and pursue funding. So I think it's a great piece. And you're right, I did talk about Niskayuna. Somebody just brought that up. The town of Niskayuna is involved in that too. So do we need a resolution from them as well, Janet? And town of Rotterdam? Or how do we'll have to talk about that with council too.
Yeah, that's how we would move forward with the legislation to include Schenectady County, so that
Right.
would be Phil Steck's.
District.
Yeah.
And again, that very first picture, if you can flip back to, is actually the preserve itself. It's not a postcard, folks. It is actually the preserve, which is, when I saw it, it was like absolutely amazing. This is in our backyard. And again, if you've never taken those trials, Marion, you took it a few years ago with us. You were out there, and I think Mr. Riggy was there. But please, that is just picturesque there. I certainly encourage you to contact the folks on the website or their phone number, or Mr. Grasso over at the barber shop there. He's open every day except Monday, but he'll certainly take it down there. How do barbers get off on Mondays? I'd like to know that, huh? What the heck?
They work on Saturday. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Nice presentation. Anything else to come before Health and Recreation?
Just quickly, and I know Ms. Brasso addressed this morning, the problem in Monroe Park after hours. So I think Chief Alvo did answer to get that some additional enforcement, because it's been an ongoing problem for years.
I agree, and I think it really belongs on public safety. I was thinking about that because it's in a park, but it's really about public safety.
But I mean, the park rules apply. After 9,
Right.
park's closed.
Right.
Whether it's Hillhurst, Fairview, Jerry Burrell Park, or
The park is closed. People just
whatever
don't
park it is. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think we should deal with it.
I'm looking at adding it onto the next committee meeting.
Because people just aren't leaving, and I guess there's fights going on, is what I'm hearing.
And we'll have the chief to help us along
Many
with the
things.
discussion.
So you will?
Yes.
Do that. Thank you.
Yeah, I asked to have it
Yes.
put on for 2 weeks. I just didn't feel that it was fair to kind of spring it on Chief Seaver tonight.
That's absolutely fair.
Yeah.
I'm just
But in the
where
meantime,
it
the
should go.
police also responded, so. Oh,
Yeah. So, anything else to come before Health and Recreation?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.
That's right, I'm going to call to order City Development and Planning.
Just gonna-
First item is to authorize a revocable permit to Arjune Realty, Inc. Mr. Wallen is not here, so I don't know who is, please, can you?
And this is just a standard permit for a sign. And I thought this had come before the council before.
We were checking this.
was my understanding, I was talking with Chris, that I was checking to see that it had been approved by the planning commission, and it was.
It was.
Okay.
Was that?
Ms. Brazo?
No, that wasn't the issue. The issue was that pole signs are out of code in the city of Schenectady, so when an ownership change happens, they aren't grandfathered in. They're grandfathered in when the same owner is changing the name of the business. So legal was going to report back to us what the circumstance was, and it's my belief that it's a change in ownership. So
From the email that I have, they're saying that's a projection sign and not a pole sign. Just what I'm picking up on from today. But that it's a projecting sign because it's projected when it's 12 inches perpendicular to the building face, unlike the pole sign, which is a freestanding sign. And that's why it was believed that it could be approved.
yeah, no, I'm supposed to be answering.
So I apologize. He actually gave me both. I decided both issues of points go tonight. That it was not a pole sign, it's a projecting sign, and that it was approved.
Are people comfortable with that, or? Yeah. Okay, then I will entertain a motion to approve this. Okay, Ms. Porterfield, second. Mr. Ferrari, all in favor? Aye. We're going to do a ceremonial resolution for the 25th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Mr. Iggy?
Self-explanatory, it's the day before, it's the 26th.
Yeah, and this is something we do every year. Yep. Okay, so motion to approve that by Mr. Ferrari, second by Ms. Porterfield. All in favor? Aye. Ceremonial resolution for the city of Arpino, Italy. Mr. Ferrari.
Recently, we had visitors from the city of Arpino who was visiting family, and they brought with them a resolution from the mayor of Arpino, Italy, thanking Schenectady for being the home to citizens from immigrants from the city of Arpino all these years and for hosting them. And they would like to improve relations between us and them. And, you know, being that we go way back in history from great-grandparents to most of the people on Goose Hill and St. Anthony's Church, that they formally recognize Schenectady as their wish to one day become a sister city. And so I guess in turn, you know, we were wondering if it would be acceptable to send them a resolution thanking them for the wonderful people that they brought to us and recognizing them as a community that we are not sister cities yet, but so that was something that I wanted to bring to the table.
Sounds like a festa down the road here.
Not Ferraris.
Something in the works here.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to approve that. Moved, seconded, all in favor? Aye. And a ceremonial resolution for, is it Naimah Jones? Naimah. Okay.
As I said at the council meeting, this woman is a graduate of, Linton School, it was Linton. She's an author now, she's gone on to write a book. This is actually a children's book, The Wonderful You, and she'll be doing this reading at the Properties on August 8th. And so, as someone who's, grown up in Schenectady native, has gone on to write this book, and will be coming back for that. So it would be nice to be able to give a resolution to her, recognizing, what she's achieved and her being a native Schenectady. And actually...
It's all right to use the name.
Oh, it's all right to use the name, okay.
At least for some of us.
So I was asking for a resolution for her to be presented at the reading.
Okay, so you live it, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And a support application for the New York Main Street program up to $500,000. Nancy?
All right, so this request comes before you tonight as another CFA grant funding application. This one's in partnership through my office and Metroplex and Legia Restorations. It's to continue the redevelopment of the Armory building that everyone's very aware of. This is for $500,000, and it would be helpful to provide for a new roof and asbestos abatement of the facility. facility. So there's two separate sections that they're applying under. One's a downtown anchor and the other is a downtown stabilization program. So there's a good chance on both sides that we might get funding. So.
Ms. Porterfield.
So the request is 500,000, and so they're applying under both, just in case they get one?
One or the other.
Okay,
yeah.
so is it possible they could be funded under both, or is that not a possibility?
No, yeah, that'd be nice, but no.
Nice try.
Yes. And so the match comes from?
It'll be Legier, private equity. We have no matching dollars from the city in it.
You mentioned that the city's involved, so what is that?
It's more or less just that we're in partnership doing a lot of the economic development stuff through my office, kind of talking with Metroplex quite frequently.
It's under the governor's program of the CFA, the Consolidated Funding Applications, and it encourages people to work with municipalities looking for local support and endorsement for these different projects. I was also going to ask Jackie when she's here if she's aware of any other ones that might be in the pipeline. So a lot of times there's entities who will put together these applications we may not be fully aware of, that even though they would have community support, and that the last time to act upon it for this round would be next Monday night.
Yeah,
So
it would be. Yeah, I'm not aware of any additional. I know the Community Builders was trying to put something together, and I hadn't heard anything from them in the last few weeks. So
it, again, doesn't bind the city, but the overall package, it gives a little bit more credence and credibility to the applications. And so while they're not aware of anything coming, there might be something submitted for unanimous consent on Monday. And on the other hand, if you run into anybody who's talking about putting in an application, you should have them contact Jackie, just so that, again, we can lend support to it, because in the ranking, it adds a little bit more value to it. We want to make sure that projects in Schenectady get full consideration, so that they're competitive and we bring as much in terms of state dollars back to the community as we can.
So
Go ahead.
Does that only apply to capital projects, or because there's other sources of funding under the CFA?
Correct. It's any of the projects. So whether it's capital, programmatic, or some of them are actually quite creative. Encourage people to, they're aware of it. We want to work with them and help support them if we can.
Any other questions? Comments? I'll entertain a motion to approve this. Okay, Ms. Porterfield, second by Mr. Ferrari, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. And the last item for discussion, the update on the demolition and debris removal will be in executive session. So at this point, I'll entertain a motion to recess city development and planning. Okay, second, all in favor? Aye.
Thank you. I'll call to order the Committee on Administrative Efficiency. We have one item before us. It's the City Department Communications and Call Routing. And I'll call upon Dave Frank to give us a little talk about what we're looking to propose possibly down the road.
Councilman Kozier and I have been discussing sort of looking at different ways to try to make it easier to use technology to efficiently contact city departments. Recently in the news, there was looking at C-Click Fix, which is a software package and an app that the town of Glenville is using. So we've been looking into that possibility, as well as other possibilities that would use the website, social media, and apps to make it easier for the public to be able to send in information to the city regarding any types of issues that they're dealing with, and then we can try to use that to more efficiently deal with those problems.
So again, we're looking at different scenarios, different pricing packages, what is available to us.
Yeah, there's different packages, and they all build out slightly differently. There's different pricing packages that come with them, as well as the ongoing cost and subscription. Most of them are based on population size. So we've been looking at those, as well as other technological developments and how they would interface with this type of a software package.
Yeah. So hopefully questions.
Any just rough figure on what that might look like? This is why I ask. I think if we're going to start to do anything technology-based, we need to look at our website. Because I know our IT department works really, really hard, and I respect that, but I still don't feel like our website is as user-friendly as a website should be in this day and age. So now the call routing, if it's $1,000, well, $1,000 isn't going to fix our website. But I would like to also discuss if we're going to put we're going to consider investing a large sum of money, I think right now that's what's most heavily utilized. So just, I think we need to have that in consideration also.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just in general, I agree with you. The pricing on some of these range from $0 to in excess of $20,000, $30,000. We are looking to do the website, but again, last year the council approved in budget upgrades under the title of our disaster recovery. And what we're doing right now is building capacity for storage so that in fact we can better manage the data. And talk about video from the police department, there's records that are coming in. And so we want to have the back end in place so that we have that storage capacity for whatever we may do. And that's being done right now so that I think by September 1st, or sometime in September, that should be up and running, and then we'll be able to look to add on these features. And some of the problems, if you don't have the capacity, when you add these features, you get conflicts where they're really not as effective as they should be. So that we're, again, going down a process that will get us to where we want to be. And as I say, we're doing those things, it just doesn't happen as quick as we would all like.
Yeah. Any other questions? Just to keep everyone informed, we'll sort of have more information as it comes across to us, and we'll bring it back for full discussion.
And so if people see some of these things, don't be afraid to refer them to David or back to Juan or John Coluccio, because again, the price range, some I looked at that are fairly sophisticated are pretty much open source. They're $0, and then there are some that are, again, one that's referenced as getting more expensive. And so we want to weigh what the costs are, what is available, and what's that progression as we go out, so that it provides the most flexibility in the environment that's most user-friendly.
All right. Thank you, David. I appreciate that. Anything else to come before our committee? Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Vincent, second. All in favor, say aye.
It's Marion.
I don't know. We'll take something on this side. We are adjourned, Madam Chair. We're adjourned. That's all I know. We're adjourned.
Call to order claims.
Sorry about that.
These two items.
There's three,
A
actually.
motion to go executive session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Intergovernmental.